You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter @RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans! Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am the Jacob Valk, except no imitation. I've got to start by recapping yesterday's World Series game. Really a bad game. Tough game to get into. I mean, it was 5-1 after 2 innings. You had the sense that tie this series up, it would be down to a best 3 out of 5. I mean, there was never a moment after the second inning where you thought, okay, the Braves are going to come back and make this a little interesting. Even when they scored in the 5th inning, that made it 5-2. They had Freddie Freeman on first with 2 men out. Then Ozzie Albies grounded out. Just a very hard game to get into. The bad thing about this World Series so far is these first 2 games really haven't been that exciting. I don't want to call them blowouts because they haven't been. But when the Braves are up 5-0 after 3 innings in Game 1, and the Astros are up 5-1 after 4 innings in Game 2, those leads feel insurmountable. There's a reason that these teams are in the World Series. It's because they don't blow leads like that. Remember, it's a lot harder to come back from a big deficit than it is to blow a big lead. So a 4-run lead entering the top of the 5th, that lead had to feel really safe to the 42,000 Astros fans at Minute Maid Park yesterday, and all the baseball fans watching the game yesterday. I mean, I don't want to diminish what happened in the 2nd inning. That was a very exciting inning. You have Travis d'Arnaud tying the game at 1. The Braves don't do much after that. Then the bottom of the 2nd hits, and it's small ball time. The Astros went back to their National League roots. Kyle Tucker singled. Yuli Gurriel then singled. Tucker went from first to third. Jose Siri legged out an infield single. That scored Tucker to give the Astros a 2-1 lead. Runners on first and second, 1 man out. Martin Maldonado was at bat. Maldonado hits a ball into left field. Gurriel scores easily. The throw from Rosario in left to third base to try to either get Jose Siri or just hold the runners goes to no one. No one was covering third base. You gotta wonder how the Braves had that breakdown They're a very good defensive team. I mean, if you're Rosario there and you see no one covering third, just throw the ball to second. Yes, Jose Siri is going to be safe at third, but you hold the runners at the corners, one man out, a ground ball can get you out of the inning, and you're down only 3-1 entering the top of the third. That's not an insurmountable deficit. Instead, Rosario fires the ball to no one. The ball skips past 2 Braves, and Siri scampers home to make it 4-1 Houston with a runner on second, one man out. Michael Brantley was able to drive Maldonado in. And that was it. That was really the game. That was the most exciting moment of the game. And it happened in the second inning. These really haven't been very exciting World Series games. Started out great. The top of the first on Tuesday was incredibly exciting. Home run, great defensive play by Altuve, single, stolen base, giving everyone tacos, then a double. It's like right after that inning, though, there's been very little excitement. Once these games have gotten underway, it's been very tough to get into. Will we get more exciting games now that the series is going to Atlanta? I don't know. Hopefully we will. You'll certainly see more strategy. The National League game is a lot more strategic than the American League game. If you consider strategy exciting, you'll like that, but I just want close games. Give me a close game where I'm hanging on every pitch. That's all I want as a fan without an allegiance to any of these teams. Am I rooting for the Braves? Yes, because I hate the Astros. You hear this from fans when their teams are in playoff series all the time. When you're impartial, you want close games. But when your team is in it, you want blowout wins. I mean, I'm sure Braves fans were happy in Game 1 that the outcome of that game was never really in doubt. And I'm sure that Astros fans were happy yesterday that the outcome of that game was never really in doubt. But if you're impartial, you want close games. You want back and forth affairs. We haven't gotten that yet. I don't like that. I'll tell you another thing that I didn't like. Jose Urquidy being pulled after 5 innings. I understand that he had just given up a run to make it 5-2. And look, the decision worked. The bullpen came in and was lights out. The combination of Christian Javier, Phil Maton, Ryan Presley, and Kendall Graveman only gave up 1 hit. What's the term we hear all the time? Shortening the game? Those guys did a great job of shortening the game. I just would have liked to have seen Urquidy, at the very least, start the 6th inning. He had only thrown 74 pitches. Overall, he was great. Like, he rebounded from his terrible start against the Red Sox in a big way. Pitched 5 innings, only gave up 2 runs, struck out 7, didn't walk anyone. He ended up getting the win. I really would have liked to have seen Urquidy start the 6th. I know why Dusty Baker pulled him after 5. Because Urquidy had given up the run, made it 5-2. Technically, that's a safe situation. But you still had to feel comfortable with that as an Astros fan. I would have sent Urquidy out there to start the 6th. You want to go batter by batter at that point? I get that. I can accept that. But I didn't like seeing Urquidy get pulled after 5. I mean, the decision worked. I can't bang tables over it. I just thought Urquidy should have thrown more than 74 pitches. But now the Braves are in trouble. The one good thing that happened for them yesterday was that they didn't use any of their A relievers. You didn't see Smith. You didn't see Matzek. You didn't see Jackson. It was Max Fried to Dylan Lee to Jesse Chavez to Drew Smiley to Kyle Wright. So the Braves bullpen is now at 100%. That's really good for them because they're going to have to go with 2 bullpen games on Saturday and Sunday. I mean, I'll say this. The game tomorrow is really a must-win game for the Braves. This is the last time until Game 6 that you'll have a true starter pitching. I don't want to say that bullpen games don't work, but you can't tell me that you have a better chance of winning when you're going with an opener or a bullpen game, however you want to phrase it, versus going with a tried and true starter. I'm not saying that the Braves won't win games 4 and 5. I'm just saying going with bullpen games, it makes Brian Snitker's life a lot harder. Ian Anderson needs to go out there tomorrow and really pitch a gem. He hasn't been terrible in these playoffs. The Braves have won all 3 games that he's started. I mean, granted, the deepest he's gone into a game has been 5 innings. But he's only given up 9 hits through his 3 starts. He's only given up 3 runs through 12 innings of work. I'm saying this is someone that's rooting for the Braves. I want Anderson to go out there tomorrow and pitch like 7 to 8 innings of great baseball. If he doesn't, and the bullpen gets exhausted in Game 3 in advance of being exhausted in Games 4 and 5, which is going to happen since the Braves are going to go with a bullpen game, I don't like the Braves' chances going forward. If Anderson can give the Braves bullpen another day of rest, and the Braves enter Game 4 with a 2-1 series lead, this is the obvious statement of the year, but it bodes a lot better for them than being down 2-1. I don't see the Braves winning Games 4 and 5. So let's say they lose Game 3. Best case scenario, they're down 3-2, headed back to Houston for Game 6 and 7. The way that Max Fried has pitched in these playoffs, can you trust him And you know that Minute Maid Park is going to be electric. If the Braves are up 3-2, okay, Game 6 may be a little rough, because as much as I like Max Fried, he really hasn't pitched well in these playoffs. Game 7, Ian Anderson has. I like the Braves' chances in that game. If the Braves win tomorrow, they have a solid chance of winning this World Series. If they don't, I really don't like their chances going forward. Game 3 is must-win for the Braves. It's not must-win for the Astros. It wouldn't surprise me if the Astros went out in Games 4 and 5 and just blew away the Braves' bullpen. I mean, like I said, the Braves aren't going to win both those games. So again, worst case scenario, if you're Houston, you're down 3-2, headed back to Minute Maid for Game 6 and 7. Not impossible. Obviously not ideal, but certainly not impossible. Tomorrow's game is must-win for the Braves, not the Astros. It's just that simple. Alright, now I'll give you some NFL Valk talk. I'll start with a rumor that broke yesterday. I just missed it. It's okay, I can still talk about it. It's not old news. According to Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano of ESPN, multiple teams are interested in Evan Ingram. Let me tell you, there are a lot of Giants fans that would have no problem trading Evan Ingram. I've seen some people say that he's a bust. Dave Gettleman should give away Ingram for pennies on the dollar, get rid of a Jerry Reese holdover. He's terrible, he's useless. Yeah, that may be a little harsh. I mean, Ingram's not great. No one's going to mistake him for Jeremy Shockey anytime soon. And certainly Ingram hasn't had the impact that you'd want from a first rounder. Never had more than 730 receiving yards in a season. Since his rookie year, he's never had more than 3 receiving touchdowns in a season. There was a great video that my friend Kevin sent me. It was all of Evan Ingram's drops from last year put to The Sound of Silence by Disturbed. And it was fantastically done. Very funny, very well made. I don't know who made that, but good job by you. Look, Ingram's not great. This year he has 20 catches for just 171 yards. Doesn't have a touchdown yet. And he's never been a great blocker. But there are worse tight ends in the league than Evan Ingram. Like, if you're a contending team, you may have a tight end that's not as good as Ingram. The Titans certainly don't have a tight end as good as Ingram. Michael Pruitt, Anthony Ferkser, and Jeff Swaim put together aren't as good as Ingram. Cole Kmet hasn't been great for the Bears. Granted, he's kind of stepped it up the last couple weeks, but if given the choice between Evan Ingram and Cole Kmet, I'm taking Ingram. Adam Troutman hasn't set the world on fire with the Saints. I think it's safe to say that Ingram would be a massive upgrade in New Orleans. Dave Gettleman does have options. I think it's the right decision for the Giants to want to trade Ingram. He's on the last year of his contract. I mean, realize, the Giants are 2-5, okay? They're not making any noise this year. So just like their roommates at MetLife Stadium, they need to sell off whoever they can, get whatever draft picks you can, and build for the future. Unfortunately for Gettleman, he's probably not going to be around to reap the benefit of those picks. There's no way that Gettleman can survive another bad Giants season. He has done an absolutely terrible job taking over for Jerry Reese. Never finishing with a single-digit loss season. Drafting Daniel Jones. Hiring Joe Judge. Hiring Pat Shurmur. Getting the Giants into a bad place with the cap. Gettleman's inept. The sooner the Giants move on from him, the better. Dan Graziano of ESPN wasn't done, though. He said that Zach Cunningham is currently on the trading block. So the guy who led the NFL in combined and solo tackles last year is available. You can't begrudge Nick Caserio for listening to offers on Cunningham. The Texans are in a terrible place right now. They know what they need to do. They need to blow everything up, get high draft picks, and build for the future. It seems like the Deshaun Watson saga is nearing an end. The trade deadline is on Tuesday. We've heard rumors that the Dolphins are really close to getting Watson. So once that Band-Aid is ripped off, you'll have a bunch of high draft picks. You'll get more from trading Cunningham. The Texans need to rebuild. Trading Cunningham would be a great supplement to trading Watson. Now I'll say this. Cunningham is not having as good a year this year as he had last year. In week 3, he played every single defensive snap for the Texans. In week 5, he played in 52%. The week after that, 29%. The week after that, 21%. He actually played on a couple special team snaps last week. The Texans have soured on Cunningham very quickly. Pro Football Focus agrees with them in that sense. Cunningham has a 39.3 overall grade this year. He's not having as good a season. There's no question about that. Why is he not having as good a season? It's probably because he's playing for a dreadful team. He's one of the few guys on that team with talent. So opposing offenses can key in on him very easily and limit his effectiveness. You'll kind of need to sell low on Cunningham. Maybe a 4th rounder if you're lucky. But there are a bunch of teams out there that would love Zach Cunningham. Talented young linebacker. He's only 26. locked up for 2 more years after this year. Granted, at a high dollar value, $14.5 million. But no one was complaining about that contract when Cunningham was leading the NFL in tackles. I wouldn't begrudge anyone for trading for Cunningham. It makes sense for the Texans to want to move on from him. Don't even stop the fire sale there. Any player that you can get anything for, even if it's just a 7th rounder, you've got to do it if you're Caserio. And for the love of mercy, trade Deshaun Watson before the deadline on Tuesday. It's at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. When that clock strikes 4:01, Watson can't be a Texan. If he is, I'm going to come on this show and eviscerate the Texans. But again, I do think Watson will be traded. I think Caserio is motivated to get whatever future assets he can for his players. Case in point, what he did involving Mark Ingram. He just sent Ingram back to the team that drafted him, the New Orleans Saints. Ingram and Alvin Kamara have been reunited. We don't know exactly what the Texans are getting back, according to Tom Pelissero of NFL Network. It involves late-round future picks. So look, obviously a good job by Caserio in getting something for a player that doesn't fit the Texans going forward. No one's going to look at Mark Ingram, a guy who's 31, and say, that's a guy who fits the Texans' youth movement. As for the Saints, it's perfect. What did I say about the Saints not that long ago? They needed to bring in someone to spell Alvin Kamara. The guy was doing everything out there. You risked running him into the ground. You risked injury. As he goes, so do the Saints. So, bring in someone who can help him out a little bit. Enter Mark Ingram, a talented running back. Certainly past his prime, but we know what he can do in the Saints offense. He made 2 Pro Bowls with the Saints. He had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. His last 5 years with the Saints, he never had less than 6 rushing touchdowns. If you were to write down on a piece of paper what the Saints really needed, it would look a lot like Mark Ingram. I'll say this, though. He's certainly past his prime. He's on pace for probably the worst season of his career. He started every game for the Texans, but he only has 294 rushing yards and 1 touchdown. He's averaging just 3.2 yards per carry and 42 yards per game. That's not good. But for a backup to Alvin Kamara, I can live with that. I don't like the 3.2 yards per carry. That needs to improve. But I think it will now that he's playing for a better Saints team. I'm not a big fan of the Saints this year. I don't think they're that good, but they're exponentially better than the Texans. Ingram's going to be really good for the Saints. He can hit the ground running and play right away. He knows the system inside and out. Outstanding job by the Saints. This trade makes a lot more sense for them than it does the Texans. I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense for the Texans. It does. It's just a lot better for the Saints. They're getting the better player. They're filling a huge need as a team that's trying to make a playoff push. Outstanding job by the Saints. Alright, now it's time to preview Packers-Cardinals. A game that has the potential to be one of the best games of the season. You have a Packers team that's won 6 straight. They look like they can go on a big run in the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Cardinals are the last undefeated team in the NFL. Kyler Murray is in the MVP discussion. I'm not a big Cliff Kingsbury fan, but I've got to be fair. To have this Cardinals team at 7-0 is incredible. Outstanding job there. Some of his in-game decisions confuse me, but I've got to be fair. The Cardinals are 7-0. I can't say much. I mean, I'll say this about the NFL. It really seems like we're going to get some new blood in the playoffs. We're in week 8 right now. It's time to look at the standings. It seems like the Bengals are going to be in the playoffs. The Raiders are going to be in the playoffs. The Chargers are going to be in the playoffs. The Cardinals are going to be in the playoffs. You look at those quarterbacks, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and Kyler Murray. Those are easy guys to root for. It's very easy to look at those teams and say, yeah, I'm excited to watch them play. I'm excited to see what these young quarterbacks can do. I mean, obviously you have holdovers. The Titans, the Bills, the Ravens, the Browns, the Buccaneers, the Packers, and the Rams, but to have these 3 teams that haven't been in the playoffs in a really long time, in a position to not only make the playoffs, but do very special things once they get there, is really exciting to me as an NFL fan. I mean, I'm a Jets fan. I know my team isn't making the playoffs. So who am I going to root for? I could see myself rooting for the Bengals and Joe Burrow. I like Joe Burrow. I could see myself rooting for the Chargers and Justin Herbert. I like Justin Herbert. I could see myself rooting for the Cardinals. I like Kyler Murray. Not crazy about their coach, but I like Kyler Murray. I like watching him play. Very exciting. We're going to get a lot of old versus new matchups. And that's really easy to get behind as a sports fan. I'm really looking forward to the playoffs. Now look, we know how great these teams are offensively. You don't need me to insult your intelligence by breaking down the Packers and Cardinals offenses. You know that already. What you may not know is how good their defenses are. That's what I'm going to be really interested in. Because there's nothing else on. Realize, it's a travel day in the World Series. So I'm going to be locked into this game. This is a coup for the NFL. They don't have to compete with the World Series. So every sports fan is going to be locked into this game. And in a battle between 2 great offenses, it usually comes down to the defenses. It's usually whichever defense steps up and makes a big play that ultimately wins the game. Sometimes you have games where it's last possession wins, but just think back to the most recent Super Bowl, Chiefs-Buccaneers. Two great offenses. The Buccaneers defense stepped up, the Chiefs defense didn't. Buccaneers won the Super Bowl. Both of these teams, in terms of points against per game, are in the top 7. The Packers are 7th, the Cardinals lead the league. Yards against per game, Packers are 7th, Cardinals are 4th. Passing yards per game, Packers are 6th, Cardinals are 3rd. These are two incredibly underrated defenses. I mean, the Packers have really talented players like Devondre Campbell, Rashawn Gary, Kenny Clark, and Adrian Amos. I'd say Jair Alexander, but he's on IR. Preston Smith is questionable for this game with an oblique injury. You know he's going to try to push through it, even if he's not at 100%. He'll be a big factor. But if he doesn't play, Kyler Murray will be doing backflips. But the Cardinals have a big injury on defense too. J.J. Watt needs shoulder surgery. He's out for the year. Their marquee offseason addition is out after only playing in 7 games. That's less than half the season. Shades of Carl Lawson with the Jets. Look, I gotta say this about J.J. Watt. There's no question that when he plays, he is insanely dominant. And he's probably a future Hall of Famer. But that's the thing. Probably. Some people are probably saying right now, how can you say probably? He's a definite first ballot Hall of Famer. I don't think so. Would he get my vote? Probably, but he's not a slam dunk. The injuries are just too hard for me to overlook. Part of being great is staying healthy. And in the last 6 seasons, J.J. Watt has missed at least 8 games in 4 of those seasons. When healthy, he's dominant. One of the best defensive players in the NFL. But part of being great is staying healthy. And J.J. Watt just hasn't done that. That's just really upsetting to me. So instead, you gotta focus on guys like Devon Kennard, Zaven Collins, who's having a great rookie season out of Tulsa, Marcus Golden, Robert Alford, Chandler Jones, Jalen Thompson, Budda Baker, and Isaiah Simmons. The Cardinals' defense is just stacked. Their defensive coordinator is Vance Joseph. If that name sounds familiar to you, that's probably because he was head coach of the Broncos in 17 and 18. And given the talent, or lack thereof, that he had to work with, he wasn't a terrible head coach. In 17, he started Trevor Siemian, Brock Osweiler, and Paxton Lynch. In 18, he started Case Keenum. Kinda hard to do much when those guys are your starting quarterbacks. Vance Joseph easily deserves another chance to lead an NFL team. he's going to get a ton of interviews in the next head coaching cycle. All in all, the Packers are just a little too banged up for me to confidently pick them. In addition to Alexander and Smith, they're going to be without Devontae Adams, Marquise Valdes-Scantling, and Alan Lazard. I understand that Aaron Rodgers makes bad wide receivers look good all the time, but against this Cardinals defense, I think the makeshift crew that he's going to have to work with is going to really struggle. The game is in Arizona. I gotta go with the Cardinals. Alright, now I'll give you some NHL Valk talk. Specifically on the Golden Knights locking up Zach Whitecloud to a 6-year extension worth $16.5 million. That's $2.75 million per year. Whitecloud has had to grind his whole career. He's a very easy story to get behind. He was born in Manitoba. So if you're a talented young hockey player in Manitoba, usually you play in the WHL, that leads to you being drafted, which leads to you either spending time in the minors or coming up and playing right away. Whitecloud didn't play in the WHL. He had to play in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. He played college hockey at Bemidji State. I'll be honest with you, I don't know where Bemidji State is. The Golden Knights gave him a shot. They said, hey, play in the AHL, improve your game, and maybe you'll turn into something. So Whitecloud spent the entire 18-19 season with the Chicago Wolves. In 1920, he split time between Vegas and the Wolves. Last year, he found his footing. He had 12 points in 51 games. He was a +9. He got a Calder Trophy vote, so give him credit. And he's shown an ability to produce in the playoffs. In the bubble, he put up 3 points in 20 games. And last year, he put up 4 points in 19 games. I'll take that from a depth defenseman in Whitecloud. I don't have a huge issue with this contract. $2.75 million for someone who's going to turn 25 in a month and is still getting better is okay. It's not great. It's not a bargain, but it's not an egregious overpay. The 6 years is risky, though. Because if Whitecloud regresses, I don't think he will. I like Whitecloud. Very easy story to get behind. But if he regresses, that's going to be a big albatross on the Golden Knights' ledger for a while. This is a little risky, but it's a risk that I can get behind. I like this move for Vegas. I'll close this show out by eulogizing a very important person in NBA history. That, of course, is Bob Ferry, who died yesterday at the age of 84. Bob Ferry really built up the Washington Wizards franchise. Without him, it's fair to wonder where they'd be. I mean, realize, when Ferry took over, the Wizards, or as they were then known, the Bullets, had just moved from Baltimore to Landover, a smaller city in Maryland. There was speculation on what the future of the team would be. Would Landover be viable? Would people go out to support the Capitol Center? There were a lot of questions, but Ferry made those games appointment viewing for people in the Landover area. And by the Landover area, I mean D.C., Baltimore, even Virginia. Ferry went to college at St. Louis University. With the Billikens, he was great. His best season was 1959. It was John Bennington's first year with the Billikens. They went 20-6. Ferry averaged a double-double, put up 22.2 points per game and 11.7 rebounds per game. They made the NIT, which at the time was a bigger deal than making the NCAA tournament. In an epic game at Madison Square Garden against Providence, the Billikens lost 75-72 in double overtime. It was an incredible game. Ferry got a bunch of All-American honors, made first team All-Missouri Valley Conference. His number 43 is retired by the Billikens. He was a territorial pick by the St. Louis Hawks. And bounced around in the NBA for a while. Was good, put up some good seasons for the Detroit Pistons. But it seemed like Ferry would be lost to history. Then, after his playing career ended in 1968 for the Baltimore Bullets, Ferry became an assistant coach under Gene Shue. When Jerry Sachs left the Bullets, Ferry took over. Like I said, this was a new era of Bullets basketball. No Sachs, no Shue at this point. He had left for the 76ers. It was looking bleak for the Bullets. It really was. But Ferry steadied the ship. He hired Casey Jones as head coach. And in Ferry's second year at the helm, the Bullets made the NBA Finals. Unfortunately for them, they got swept by the Warriors. By the 77-78 season, the Bullets had established themselves as a perennial playoff team, but never really made a ton of noise. But that changed really quickly. Ferry signed Bob Dandridge away from the Bucks, and with him, Mitch Kupchak and Kevin Grevy all being brought in by Ferry. And guys like Elvin Hayes, Phil Chenier, and Wes Unseld already there. The Bullets, in an epic 7-game NBA Finals, beat the Supersonics to win, to date, their only championship in franchise history. Pop quiz, who was the coach? It wasn't Casey Jones. It was Dick Motta. Another stroke of genius by Ferry, bringing in Motta from the Bulls. The Bullets made it back to the NBA Finals the next year. Unfortunately for them, the Supersonics got their revenge. They destroyed the Bullets in 5 games, but Ferry won NBA Executive of the Year. In 1982, Ferry won another Executive of the Year for guiding the Bullets back to the playoffs after missing the playoffs the year prior. Unfortunately for them, that was kind of the end of the glory years. From 84 to 88, the Bullets were in the playoffs every year, but they never went around. But think about it this way. Ferry was Bullets GM for 17 seasons. They made the playoffs 13 times in his tenure. You know how many times the Wizards franchise has made the playoffs since Ferry retired in 1990? 10. It's been 31 seasons. And the Wizards franchise as a whole, with numerous GMs, John Nash, Wes Unseld, Michael Jordan, Ernie Grunfeld, and Tommy Shepard, have only made the playoffs 10 times in the 31 seasons since Bob Ferry's retirement. After making the playoffs 13 times in 17 years, that just goes to show how important Ferry was to that franchise. He was an incredibly smart basketball mind. Yes, he is Danny Ferry's father. I mean, I'll tell you, you can make an argument for Bob Ferry to be a Hall of Famer. There are a lot of people in the Basketball Hall of Fame that are less deserving than Bob Ferry. Let's put it that way. May he rest in peace. Until tomorrow, I'm Jacob Valk, and always remember, if you disagree with me, you're wrong.